Deebo Samuel went on his Instagram and revealed that since wiping the 49ers from his IG, he's gotten some crazy DMs. He says death threats, among other things. People being crazy, and he released a video of it, and he basically said he's unfazed, and I believe him. There are two types of people, I think: people that say they're unfazed by social media and aren't, and people that say they're unfazed and are. In the world of professional sports, and it's hard because I think everybody, if you're a person of Deebo's stature, you get a lot of bullshit. I would imagine the positive stuff he gets outweighs in terms of volume the bullshit, but the bullshit somehow always cuts through all the positive stuff, and you hear the negative stuff, right? 50 compliments and one negative thing, and you hear the negative thing. So I watched that video, and I thought, this is another example of Deebo Samuel being the guy the 49ers thought they were when they drafted him. I think he's proven time and time and time again that the way he plays is one asset, but the way he conducts himself is another asset for the 49ers. And I was talking last week, unrelated to this, to one of the coaches who was on the South Carolina staff when Deebo was there. And he texted me out of nowhere because he heard us talking about Deebo, and he's like, Deebo is one of my all-time favorites. Like, I love the guy. He's just talking about what a good guy is, what a good leader he is, all that kind of stuff. And, an athlete can take what Deebo just went through one of two ways. And I just think it's another reminder. Ultimately, I do think a deal gets done with him. But that aside, his deal aside, I think it's just another reminder that what they have in Deebo Samuel is kind of everything you want out of a franchise cornerstone. And one of those things is leadership.
You and I, in our, I claim mid-30s, close to 40, 30, 36, 37. And we lived in a world where we did not have the internet, like in our youth, right? Not like 5, 6, like we were 10 to 15 years old. The internet was not an everyday thing. I would say, even as I remember checking into our college dorm, there were only the richest of rich people I knew had a laptop. You had a hard desktop. The internet Facebook did not exist. The connection.
MySpace did.
But that MySpace was relatively new, but I never got on MySpace. Did you?
No, I had a fake account in the name of Darvin Ham. That was it. Sorry, Darvin.
Didn't he win a dunk contest?
Did he?
Maybe not. But we lived in, I would say, up until we were 18, 19 years old, the connectivity at the most extreme was like AOL Instant Messenger. I mean, that I would say most people that I knew used.
And that was the main.
Yeah, so 18 years of our life, it was not like this. Now, the second half has been definitely the last, 15 years, right? But you would say Deebo, who is, 26 years old, really the majority of his athletic prime, right? I'm sure in high school he was kicking ass up till now, has been in this world. So, because I often say, like, on Friday of this, if you're listening to this on Monday morning or whatever, on Friday, I sometimes have to delete Twitter from my phone to protect myself from myself. Like you said, you control what you're going to eat by what you get in the grocery store. And it's so true. Like if you go like, I'll just get one bag of chips and some like couple frozen pizzas, you can easily end up eating those in like 3 or 4 days. But if you don't bring those home and you bring healthy foods home, you will probably just tend to eat some of those foods. So I have to delete Twitter. And I've said this forever, like, now, the stats speak for themselves. I think sometimes the Elon and everything that's going on, it's like, I think we act like Twitter's a little bigger than it is. But regardless, if you're on it, now he's using Instagram, and I bet his Instagram following is pretty big, and a lot more people are on Instagram than Twitter. But for me, Twitter can overwhelm me. So when I delete it and I attacked Friday, played golf, hung out, did whatever, it's like it didn't even exist. And clearly athletes, right, the quarterbacks, some star players are pretty good at like balancing it out. But there are some that struggle. It's a challenge. It's easy for anyone to say, a 50-year-old, like, God, fuck, just delete it. It's not that easy, right? Because it also has positives. Like, he can connect. He can do stuff like this. But like, ultimately, you said, he did not, to me, if he would have come out, like Baker Mayfield said the other day, Baker Mayfield is a fucking starting quarterback that he would like to go to people's cubicles and boo them, which is kind of funny, right? Just in itself, in a vacuum, if we're just drinking some beer, like that would be a funny visual if you say it out. But it's pretty stupid. Like, ultimately, Baker, those people that boo you or that they cheer you, and 2 years ago they cheered you, this year they booed you, have provided every penny. Now, he doesn't realize that because he just thinks the Browns are paying him, but the Browns get the money because of all the fans. And ultimately, whether you have your relationship with fans is probably ebbs and flows if you're a star player or just a famous athlete. But like, I think most high-level guys just know how to handle it. I'm not Baker. These were just words. It's not like he actually did something to a fan, but it was just like, do I really want my quarterback saying that? And you just watch Deebo kind of making light to it, because ultimately it could have been 10 DMs. It could have been 100. I don't know, but it probably was less than, but to him, it feels like a lot. And it just, the situation, he went from the adulate. Can you imagine the adulation he experienced during the fall? November, December, and January, just in his DMs, from friends, his text message. It had to be like, is this what Michael Jordan felt like? And now it's just getting a little weird. And he honestly hasn't even said anything, right? It's all like hearsay shit.
I like to post, but that said 25 million a year or nothing, right?
But I like some posts, right?
Yeah. I mean, likes are not endorsements. Maybe it's just a, hey man, I appreciate your opinion. Thanks for supporting me. Yeah, I mean, look.
Or I wanted to save this to forward to my agent and be like, what do you think about this number?
Yeah. I was listening to Jeff Pearlman's book about the Lakers, which the HBO show is based off. And there's a part in the book where Magic gets Paul Westhead fired, and LA turns on Magic. Like, he becomes like, they hate him because they just think it's kind of a scummy thing to do.
Why did he get him fired?
Just they hated playing for him. Westhead changed their offense after they won the championship, after Jack McKinney got hurt, and made it very stagnant, and it was not working.
I thought he was a running gun guy.
Well, he wanted to put his own signature on it. It was Jack McKinney's running gun offense. It was run, but it was like run to a spot and stand there until the ball gets to you. And so Magic says, he says in the news, I want to get traded. Like, that's the story. Like, I don't like Chicago, New York. I'd be good in New York. Of course, he's not going to get traded. He knows that's how he gets the coach fired. So he gets the coach fired. Pat Riley takes over. The first game back at the Forum, they introduced like, Magic Johnson, and the place boos like crazy. Like, they boo him. And Magic is kind of rattled. And Pat Riley says, don't do a thing. Just ride it out. Just go out and play. It'll be fine. By the second quarter, they are cheering Magic because Magic's having an incredible game. Like, it's that fast.
And layups and shit.
And it's like, there are things about this whole thing that we do with sports that are illogical. But we know the deal. When you play well, there's cheers. When you play poorly, there's boos. And the key to surviving, I think, as a human is probably surround yourself with people who don't live and die with how you played that day, who like you for you, right? And that's really hard, I think, as an athlete, if you don't have people with you from before you were rich and famous, to find a good core of people around you that treat you the same no matter how you're playing. And especially with social, now you can get all kinds of feedback for better or worse, right? But I think, to your point, it's not about fighting that reality, which is some of this is unfair. There's no amount of money that can make you happy if everyone's telling you you suck. So what if you're rich? Because that's what we say. Like, hey, you're making the money. You got to take it as part of the deal. And that is true. It is part of the deal. But if you're the human involved in it, it can still feel bad and unfair. And what I'd look for in every draft is a guy that can handle that, because this is just the deal. Fair or unfair, this is the deal. How do you handle it? And Deebo can handle it.
And I do think, as a skill position, I think it's like an NBA player. I think sometimes like star baseball players, they part of their whole persona is playing into that a little back and forth.
Yeah.
And I would say
Me
historically,
crowd.
It was like that when we were kids without social media.
Sure.
Right? With
Reggie
Michael
Miller.
Irvin, whoever, Reggie Miller, whatever. And then it actually makes you, it's great for the sport, because it's going to make people that love them more, and people that hate them more. It's incredible. Like, it's ultimately stuff's good for business. To me, Deebo, even if he had said like, fuck, I would, it actually just kind of makes his whole thing. The McGlinchey thing, like, my offensive lineman, like Jason Kelsey is, announced his return, and then they had him sing at the Philadelphia 76er game. His return was the coach. At the end of the season, Sirianni was like, I'm just going to send him a keg of beer. And it sounded stupid. He literally announced this thing on the Eagles drinking a keg of beer. Like, I don't think they were kidding. And it just feels like Kelsey, man, just in the trenches, no bullshit, big, couple kids just eating meat and blocking guys. And McGlinchey, for example, to me, like my offensive lineman, he got in the thing a couple years ago with Grant, and then he went nuts on social media. This year, that picture of him being skinny, and then he does the post. It's like, that feels a little skill guy, not offensive line guy, right? I don't want my offensive line to be like, who gives a shit, right? And that, to me, it's been, he feels like kind of, diva's the wrong word, but just really impacted by it. Like, ultimately, Mike, they're calling you skinny. Who gives a flying fuck? But like, to an offensive lineman, calling you skinny is the equivalent of what Deebo, like, you don't want to be here. Like, it's a shot at your character, basically.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it just shows you that different people are impacted. Like, for example, and I don't think he even has Twitter, one guy who has literally been unaffected, at least to the outside, we have never seen Jimmy. He's had to ask some questions, but just zero, like, hey, man, you guys, I want to say something really quick. You guys are all making fun of me for throwing that shitty pass on Thursday night. He just gets up, wears it. Just feels like
what he wears is Travis Matthew everywhere. That's what he wears.
Looks fantastic. But you know what I mean? It's just, that's a Patriot.
Yep.
Because they perfected it, right?
How, if you're the Panthers right now, could you pick Baker over him? Just based on your building's kind of a mess. This is me pushing. But how, you know what I mean? Like, this is what you need. Like, this is what you need. No, you couldn't. I think the thing, my final thought on this part of Deebo is what Deebo displayed is perspective. And I think leaders have to have perspective. It's an essential quality of a leader is perspective. And Deebo has perspective.
And to me, there's also a balance. Like the other night, the Timberwolf game against the Clippers.
Right.
And whoever, it was Harlan and maybe Reggie. And Reggie said, like, John Morant, coming back off this injury, these guys are pretty athletic. Well, I follow him on social media, and within 2 seconds, he had been like, they love saying my name. And it's like, if I was him too, I might tweet that too. Like, fuck this guy, he loves saying my name.
Yeah.
And then I saw he had a quote the other day that I guess is something Memphis says, like, something like, you guys want the smoke? And his thing is like, we run up the chimney. We do it.
That's good.
Like, do you run from the smoke? We run up the chimney. We embrace the smoke type deal.
Yeah.
Like, okay. While he has like his dreads, a couple of them are colored. It's weird. He's, one's like purple, one's like red, but he's talking like he's, LT in his prime. Like, fucking bring it on.
want the smoke to me has become the new Mamba mentality. Everybody's got Mamba mentality. It's like a 1%er thing, but somehow everybody wants the smoke. And
the thing, like, want the smoke is smoke. Obviously, if it can take out your lungs and kill you, but to me, like, fire would be bad, right? Or like, you want the tornado, like, something that could just take you out. Like smoke, you can kind of get away from,
walk right through it.
Yeah. How did this become exactly? Like, do you want the inferno or something? To me, would make a little more sense.